What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another great episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast dedicated to you, the digital agency owner who wants to scale and grow their agency faster, easier, where you're able to create the freedom to pick and choose to do what you really love in your agency, whether to get to a point to sell it one day or create other stuff. This is the podcast for you. Now, in today's episode, I'm bringing up an agency owner who he's going to talk about the big important decisions that he made that made a big difference at his agency. So let's go ahead and jump into the show. Hey Manish, welcome to the show again.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for having me. Excited to be back on the show.
Exactly. So for the people that have not checked out the other episodes that we've done together, tell us briefly in like 30 seconds who you guys are and what you guys do.
Sure. Iron E2M, it's a full service white label agency. So essentially, we help digital agencies solve bandwidth problems when it comes to building websites with WordPress, building commerce stores with Shopify, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, SEO, and content writing. We have our headquarters over here in India, where we have a team of 150 plus people, and we also have an office in San Diego where we have four full-time employees. So, yeah, it's been 10 years we have been running this agency, and as we speak, we have been helping like 150 plus agencies all across the US to solve their bandwidth and capacity problems.
Awesome. Now, as an agency CEO, there's always 1,000 things for us to do. And we're always getting dragged in every different direction. Um, and we always have to make important decisions. Now, what are some important decisions that you've made, each year that's really helped your agency grow and scale?
Yeah. I have to think there are tons of decisions you make, right? Essentially, as a CEO, uh, I was reading a good article, I think last month, and it was a really good article where it was saying that as a CEO, your job is to make 10 best decisions in the year. That's it. That's what entire your job is, right? So we are going to complete 10 years next month. So obviously we will make like hundreds of decisions, but yeah, I can definitely share some of the most important decisions which kind of I made, which led us, go through this journey and helped us to grow and be where we are right now. So I think uh, my personality is more sort of a person where I quickly learn what not to do, and that makes my job much easier with what to do, right? So 10 years back, I started this company, and before that, I worked for two different organizations for 5 years. And I'm a really good observer. So what I did in 5 years, I just observed what everything is, what was wrong with the two organizations I worked, right? So I think the first thing I observed that the companies I used to work with, they used to do everything. So because we are in the information era, we kind of get distracted very easily, right? So the moment the new technology is out, right, every agency wants to uh, like monetize on that technology, right? So for example, these days like blockchain is very popular. A lot of like advanced technologies are very popular, and agencies would like to get into that space and start getting business and hire people into the front, right? So uh, I that's great. I mean, there is nothing wrong with that, but I feel like at some point, at all technologies get uh, kind of like devaluated and get like more of, I would say, older, right? And then the new technology replace the old technology. So that's kind of an evolution happens in the tech space very often. So there is nothing wrong, but I think what I kind of like focused more on making sure that how do we focus more on solving the larger problem rather than like moving from one technology to another technology, right? So that's where, like, we decided to be very hyper focused, that let's fix the geographic, let's fix the clientele. So from the very beginning, our focus has been only white label. So being very hyper focused and solving the specific problem, right? And I think we often ignore the fact that, if so obviously when you are studying an agency or when you are running any business, obviously you have a growth mindset, but we always ignore the fact that, along with your agency, the market is also going to grow exponentially, right? So we call it like TAM, right, which is total addressable market. So whenever we are starting to think something in terms of our targeted market, we have a limited vision to see the TAM, which is total addressable market, right? You always have to think like, as your business is going to grow, the total addressable market is also going to grow, right? So that's something, I have had a mindset from the very beginning. So we essentially focused more on being very hyper focused and offering services to only agencies, rather than, like, serving any and every clients. And also in a technology front, we stayed focused more on, like, the most common technologies which have, like, the all-time needs, right, which are kind of like essentials, right? So that's what helped us to be more focused, and not to get distracted, and be where we are right now. So that's kind of the most important thing I would say first. And second, which is related to that, is I think it happens, like, as a human, when you go through a certain situation, you have two options. Either you share, either you learn from that okay, how I can help others not go through the same situation, or you just adopt that and then, like, pass that to other people, right? So I wasn't really a happy employee when I worked for two different organizations previously, right? All I learned how employees should be treated. This is not how employees should be treated. This is how, not like, they should be given like accountability, right? Uh, People should not be micromanaged. And I learned a lot, and then I was like, how about if I create an environment, right, where people do their job freely and grow, people where people are not being judged, right? People are feeling accountable without being micromanaged, right? So those kind of things helped me a lot. That kind of mindset helped me a lot, uh, to kind of build a team, which kind of, like, uh, what's something I always looked for when I was an employee from an employer. That's something I injected. So now in last 10 years, whenever I make any decision, I always think like, if I would have been the employee, would is that something would make sense to me, right? And that helped me a lot to make decisions which kind of resulted into a, highest level of retention in our company.
Yeah. I think, the companies that are employee and client focused, right? Like
Yeah.
putting themselves in their shoes are the ones that, are the ones benefiting, and they're the ones doing, because they're not putting themselves first.
Yeah.
And also too, as you guys are making decisions, throughout the years, it's, when I look at making a decision, I think a lot of people get hindered on the how rather than, well, I think this is the right decision. We'll figure out the how later on. Or who do I need to bring in to figure out the how? I see too many
Yeah.
agency owners that they're about to make the right decision, but then they have no clue how to do it. So then they actually
Yep.
change their decision, and I think that's a big, big mistake. And that goes back to kind of what you were just talking about on your decision of like having your employees are freely to grow, right? Like you probably didn't know how to do that yet. Like you just knew how not to. And then you let your team know kind of, here's the decision, and then give them the freedom in order to go do it. And then even go back to what you were saying about getting hyper focused, especially when new technology comes out like blockchain or whatever the
Yeah.
technology is, as you guys are listening to it, you know, it's fine to have an incubator division within the agency as well, trying out new things and having it's a small division, and that can go bigger, but you still have to have that hyper focus on 90% of the business, to not kind of dilute everything you're doing.
Yeah, that's very important, and specifically, based on my experience, and I have made mistakes, in the early days of my uh, when I started this company, and within 2 3 years we saw a great success, and that's what we jump started into, like mobile application development, doing literally everything, right? Which was the most recent at that time, and it kind of like diluted not our attention. It distracted us. It also diluted our profits as well, right? Because now what you are doing, something is working, you are taking the profit out of from that, and then you put that profit into trying something new. And I mean, you are growing, but you are not seeing money, right? So over the time I learned that, and then that kind of decision we made. So this is the thing, one thing we do every year. This is something I would highly recommend every agency owners to do, is something like, we do like, every year analysis post, like kind of like, analysis of how the year was. And at the end of every year we kind of, think, take a pause, and take a step back, and then think like how we can reoffer our services, how we can, like restructure uh, our offerings, pricing, and everything, right? And that exercise we have been doing since long, and for 3 years back, 2019, we did that exercise and realized that, okay, how about, we productize our services, right? And that was the best decision, one of the best decisions we made. Were productizing our services, which helped us to generate recurring revenue. And as of now, as we speak, in 3 years, we pivoted our business model. 3 years back, now 90% of our revenue comes through recurring revenue model. So just because of doing that exercise every year, so I think, when you do this exercise, you will get to know, okay, what did not go well, what did not work, and that gives you a clear path, how what should be your priority for the next year, right? So when we were that brings to the another decision which I made, when we were growing very fast. So we pretty much grew like 3x in last 3 years. And I knew that if you want to grow organically, we have to have a decentralized workplace where, the one person is not making any decision. So we kind of like started doing that practice 2 years back, where we announced that, okay, we are introducing a decentralization at workplace, where you are responsible for what you do, right? And certain processes and SOPs. So the decision is not at the stake of me. So even if I'm not available, the store so will still go on, right? So I think these kind of exercises everyone should do at the end of year, to kind of look back and see how the year was, and then pivot, uh, how you want to do your business on offerings and pricing and everything you can think of, and then go into the next year to kind of take your learnings and implement to the next year.
Yeah, I think looking back at the prior year and even going back even further and looking at what were the decisions that we made that really worked, what were the ones that didn't work, so you could learn, right? Or is what we all should be doing. I think we're constantly always looking forward rather than kind of measuring what was the key things that we did and then how do we do more of those. It's kind of almost like when you're looking at your marketing sometimes. A lot of us just keep thinking of the new lead magnets, the new
Yeah.
different things that we're doing rather than what were the most popular blog posts and episodes that we had? How can we optimize that more? How do we do more of that? Because success leaves clues. And a lot of times, if you're not looking back, you don't see that. Well, and also too, I what are some of the other criteria that you use for making decision making? I know you talked about looking at how other companies you worked for did it wrong,
Yeah.
and then also employee focus. Is there any other ways that you look at going, this is the right decision to make, or how long am I going to stay true to this decision until I switch, change my mind?
Yeah, so I'm a very quick decision maker. So I think some of the decisions, if I recall, uh, since my curiosity, uh, you know, got me in a situation where, like 6 years back, I decided, okay, since our primary target market is US, so I'll move there. So it's literally, I one night I decided that I'm moving to the US, and that was the best decision, one of the best decisions I made, because I learned a lot. I traveled more than like 30 states in the US. I met like hundreds of people in person. And I wanted to understand, like, how our clients think, like, what are their needs, what are the pain points they have exactly. And I really wanted to fill that gap. And I took all that learnings and then came back over here. And since working closely with team to fill the gap, right? So in that process, the other thing, I spent a tons of time few years back learning more about human psychology, right? Mental model frameworks. So essentially, that helped me a lot to kind of make the best decisions and navigate through the most complex situations in the most seamless way. So it's kind of like, when you make any decision, there are two ways. One is based on the intuition, one is based on the memory, and third is using the mental model frameworks, right? So if I am hiring someone in a leadership role, right, then it's kind of like, I think like this: can I work with this person for a lifetime? If yes, then only I'm going to hire this person, right? So those there are certain ways. If I cannot see working with this person for a lifetime, I would rather stop working with this person from tomorrow itself, right? So that helped me a lot, where learning the mental models, learning about the human psychology. And I think I got fascinated about one thing, that there are companies there are companies who are client centric, there are companies who are employee centric, and I'm like, I want to create the best of both. So that way, what I did is, like, in the kind of era of AI chatbots and everything, the humanized approach, human support, humanized approach in terms of customer service and everything is kind of getting lost. So that's the reason, to improve our clients experience, we kind of decided that we want to build a customer service team specifically. So we saw this thing a few years back, that this is going to be a very important thing in the future, so let's start doing it. So now we have a specific customer service team who are just taking care of clients accounts, and making sure that clients are really really happy working with us. And on the second side, uh, we have the so I have this thing which is like, I do not set any budget when it comes to spending on employees. So if you are doing any engagement activities, so usually companies decide the yearly budget, right? That, okay, we are going to spend x number of budget uh, on, like, doing activities for our employees throughout the year. And every year we have a meeting, and we talk about that. I'm like, let's not do it, like, let's do whatever is needed, because I think it is an investment, not as an expense. So
Yeah.
some of the decisions which I kind of like, did not make sense. I mean, if I speak from a finance perspective, I would approve. I mean, we have this thing, they do not need sick. Our HR team do not need my approval for any employee engagement activity we are doing. Whatever budget they comes up, it's approved default. By default, it's approved, right? Because and it always help us to have the happy employees and, like, retain people. So uh, this kind of like, decisions which I kind of observed. So while meeting people, I observed, right? So one of the things which I've been also doing is making sure that, solving. So all these like mental model frameworks, I learned about this principle, solving principle engine problem, which we talked in the last episode, right? So we pay the best and highest in the industry to keep team motivated, and also retaining majority of our team members by solving this principal agent problem. So we have this record, and I'm very proud of that it's been 10 years I've been running this company. We process the paychecks on 7th of each month. Till date, we never ever delayed. Every month it happens on 7th without fail. Even if like 7th kind of like falls on weekend, we do it on 5th, to do it on Friday. So I have this thing which is like more of paying people on time. So we also have this rule: every vendor, we pay to every vendor on time. So we even like do not keep 30 days of like grace period. The moment we receive the invoice, we pay on the same day. So some of the like philosophies I believe into is something. I kind of think like that, right? If I'm sending invoice to my client, if they pay me immediately, that makes me feel so happy. Then that is the same thing is happening with people you are paying, right? If your vendor is raising you an invoice, and if you are paying them immediately, that will make them happy, and they will your vendors will be always happy to take your work on a priority because you are paying them upfront, right? So
Yeah.
these kind of decision making I learned through like learning more about human psychology, what motivates human beings, mental model frameworks, and all sort of different things, and by traveling and meeting a lot of successful people.
Yeah, it really comes back to not being, what you were talking about with, client centric or employee centric, but trying to meet in the middle. It's almost human centric, right? Like
Yes.
you have to make it work for everybody. Like, for example, my team was going over a strategy that they were like, well, if we do this, 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 and this, like, and Jason, you're going to spend this time, this time, this time, this time, man, the members for the mastermind are going to love it. I said, yes, but it's one sided. Like, right? Like
Yes.
it has to work for both parties. And that's really how I look at on a decision making process of going, is it going to provide benefit to the end party? Is it going to provide benefit to us? Because if it's one sided, well, that relationship's not going to last, whether I kill it or they kill it. And
Yep.
so when everybody's thinking about making decisions, think about that on the big decision that you guys have. Does it work for everyone? And if the answer is no, then that's a short term decision because it's not going to have
Yes.
long term results. Because we all can make. You're a lot like me, Manish, where you're like probably trust your gut. Um,
Yep.
but if we really kind of analyzed it and going, does it work for them? Does it work for us? Does it work for employees?
Yes.
And if it works for everybody, then that's going to be something amazing. And I bet if you look back at and did an audit of the last 3 years of all the big decisions, and you literally go, here's the big milestone, here's the big decision that actually had it, and then does it work for all parties? I bet on 99% of them, it would work for all of them. So, well,
Yeah.
Manish, this has been amazing. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
uh I think pretty much we covered everything. The other thing is more sort of like I would like uh, advise agency owners is making sure that uh, you should free up your more time to do some more meaningful things, right? So we are always attached to our work so much and role so much that we cannot get away from that, and we always get have that impression on our mind that I don't think this is something anyone else can do, and that gets you in a vicious circle where kind of like you are not freeing up your time, right? So you have to start learning. So the one thing, if you really want to grow your agency, right, one thing I'm right now doing, since we are completing 10 years and we are going into the another decade, all I'm focusing right now, everything I do, I think like this: is that something can be done by someone else? If yes, then I start assigning that thing, right? So because I think we always believe that freeing up time, then once you think like that, okay, if I'm gonna get free, what do I gonna do, right? But you have to think like that. You have to follow this framework. Freedom will lead to the boredom. Boredom is not bad. Boredom will lead to the creativity, and creativity lead to the again productivity, right? So if you are free literally, right, if you are free literally, then at some point, yeah, you will get bored, and then you will feel like, start feeling like, now what should I do? Oh, I'm missing my calls, I'm missing my team meetings. But then you will get to the point that, okay, you will start thinking creative. So now you have all the time, right, to think something new, creative. And that's what the CEO's job should be. A CEO should be only and only making 10 best decisions in the year. That's it. CEO should not be doing anything else. So one thing I would advise to all agency owners who are like obsessed about growth, make sure you start freeing up your time more and more, and start making giving more responsibility to your team members, so you can focus more on like strategic and the most important things which nobody can work in your organization.
Yeah, thanks for covering that. And I like that kind of that those stages of going to boredom, or
Yeah.
I remember getting to the boredom stage, which was basically I'm insignificant in the agency because everyone's doing everything. They don't need me anymore. And I always joke
Yes.
with my mastermind members. I'm like, look, here's the 5 roles that you need to do. You don't need to do anything outside of this. But when you and they're like, this would be awesome. And then when they get to it, they're like, we're so depressed. I'm like, you
Yeah.
dummy, I told you this would happen. And then I like how you put like when the boredom or the I'm not worth anything anymore comes, you'd be like, look, now you have more freedom. You can be more creativity, and then you can execute on the things no one else can. So thanks for sharing that. Where can people go in order if they want to check you guys out, learn more about the agency, have you guys help them with some resources?
Yeah, our website is the best. It's e2msolutions.com. So, if you are an agency owner and running short of bandwidth, or and need any help, we would love to help. Even if you want to just chat with me, I'm obsessed about the entire agency ecosystem. Always love to speak with agency owners. Never miss that opportunity. So yeah, our website is best. You can check out more about our white label services, and you can find my contact information there. And yeah, I would love to chat with you if that's something makes sense to you.
Awesome. Well, make sure everyone you go to etmsolutions.com and reach out if you want some help or just to chat with Manish. He's tons of resources there. So go check that out. And until next time, have a swank day. Thanks, Manish.